Most garlic growers cut off the scape and throw it straight in the bin. Every single year. And every single year, they throw away something that could have done 3 completely different jobs for them. One of those jobs affects the size of the bulb they are trying to grow right now. One changes what they cook this summer, and one protects everything else in the garden for free. I did the same thing for 3 years before I understood what I was actually holding in my hand. The first thing that surprised me was that one correctly timed cut can increase the final bulb size without adding a gram of fertilizer. No extra feeding, no special treatment, just removing one stem at the right moment and letting the plant use what it was already producing more efficiently. Here is what is actually happening. The scape is the garlic plant trying to flower. Every day that stem stays on the plant, the bulb underground gets a smaller share of what the plant produces. The roots are pulling nutrients. The leaves are converting sunlight. But the output is being split between the bulb and the flower stalk. Cut the scape, and more of the plant's resources can be redirected into bulb development. Gardeners who do this consistently pull heavier bulbs with more complete wrapper layers than those who leave the scapes on. You feel the difference in your hand when you lift them. Here is something most people never think about when they talk about scapes. The clove structure inside the bulb is established during a relatively narrow window in late May and early June. Growth patterns during this period influence how many cloves form and how densely they develop. A plant that is directing energy toward a flower stalk during those weeks forms differently than one that has had the stalk removed. Not just smaller cloves in some cases, but fewer of them. The scape removal matters not only because of the nutrients it redirects, but because of when it happens in the bulb's development cycle. Timing matters here more than most people realize. You do not cut the moment the scape appears. You wait until it makes one full curl, until the tip has gone all the way around and is pointing back downward. Most growers consider this the ideal moment because the plant has already benefited from the additional green growth, while the flower stalk has not yet drawn too much energy toward reproductive development. Cut too early and you lose some leaf function. Leave it past that point, and it has already been competing with the bulb for weeks. One full curl. The stem loops around like a loose question mark and the tip hangs back down. You will know it when you see it, and once you have seen it once, you will never miss it again. If this is already useful, hit subscribe because every few days I put out a new video timed to exactly what is happening in the garden right now. So you cut it. You are holding a curled green stem that smells of fresh garlic. And your first instinct is probably to drop it on the compost. Stop there. Take it inside. Put it on the counter. Because what you are holding is useful in 2 more directions that most people never find out about. And I want to give you the one that surprised me most first. Take the scapes you are not going to eat, or the trimmings from the ones you have already chopped. Put them in a jar. Cover with plain water. Leave them out of direct sun for 24 hours. The water draws out the volatile compounds responsible for the garlic smell and its natural deterrent properties. Strain it through a cloth into a spray bottle. Spray it on the leaves of your tomatoes, brassicas, onions, anything showing early signs of aphid pressure or anything you want to protect as June arrives and pest pressure builds. The smell disrupts the ability of soft-bodied insects to locate their host plants. It does not kill anything. It does not affect the soil. It washes off in rain and needs reapplying every few days, which is why you make a fresh batch each time you have scapes available. Used consistently through early June, it makes a real practical difference to what you find on your plants in the morning. Some gardeners also report it discourages the allium leaf miner and onion fly from settling nearby. The evidence is observational rather than from controlled trials, so treat it as a field-tested tool rather than a guaranteed protocol. The cost is 0, and the downside risk is nothing. Now the kitchen side. Because the scapes you did not use for the spray are genuinely worth eating and most people have no idea. The texture sits somewhere between a green bean and a scallion. The flavor is mild fresh garlic without the sharp heat of a raw clove. Bright and clean. It is at its best right now when it is still young and flexible enough to bend without cracking. The older and woodier it gets, the less pleasant it becomes to eat, which is yet another reason the timing of the cut matters beyond just the bulb. The simplest use is a hot pan with oil. Cook it like green beans, 5 minutes over medium heat until it softens and picks up a little color. A pinch of salt. Done. Most people at your table have never seen it before, and they will ask what it is. For something that lasts longer, garlic scape pesto is one of the better things you can make in June. Roughly chop the scapes and blend them with olive oil, hard cheese, lemon juice, and whatever nuts you have. Pine nuts work well. Walnuts cost less and work just as well. No basil needed. The scapes carry the whole flavor on their own. Freeze it flat in a zip bag and break off pieces through the winter when the garden is dormant. That frozen pesto in January costs nothing beyond what you were already cutting off. Garlic scape butter is worth knowing too. Blend finely chopped raw scapes into softened butter with salt and lemon zest. Roll it into a log, freeze it, slice off rounds through the summer and melt them over grilled vegetables or stir them into pasta. A full garlic bed gives you enough scapes to make a supply that carries well into autumn. Fresh scapes keep in the fridge for 2 to 3 weeks in a sealed bag. More forgiving than most fresh herbs. Now here's the part most garlic growers never think about. What actually happens inside the bulb after the scape comes off. In the 2 to 3 weeks following scape removal, provided the plant has enough warmth and the soil is not waterlogged, the bulb goes through its most active phase of final development. The outer wrapper layers are forming and thickening. The individual cloves are swelling and separating from each other. The neck of the plant, the part just above the bulb, starts to narrow and firm up. This is the period when the difference between a good harvest and a disappointing one becomes locked in. Most gardeners do not realize that the lower leaves of the plant will start dying back naturally during this period, and that this is not a problem. It is actually one of the signals you are looking for. Each green leaf on the plant corresponds to a wrapper layer on the bulb. As the lower leaves die and turn brown, those wrapper layers are papering over and drying down into the protective skin that will keep the bulb intact during curing and storage. When roughly half the leaves have browned and the other half are still green, the bulb is approaching its harvest window. This is also the period when you should be reducing watering significantly. Consistently wet soil during final bulb development interferes with the wrapper formation. The outer layers need to start drying and tightening around the bulb. If the soil stays wet through this phase, the wrapper stays soft. The bulb does not cure properly after harvest, and the storage life drops noticeably. You pull something that looks reasonable in July and find it going soft in September when it should still have months left. The scape removal you do now in late May or early June is essentially the starting gun for this final phase. The plant shifts from a growth orientation to a completion orientation. The energy that was going toward reproduction now goes toward finishing the structure underground, which means the 60 seconds you spend cutting the scape and deciding what to do with it sets off a chain of events that determines what you find in the soil 6 to 8 weeks from now. That connection between the cut you make today and the bulb you lift in July is something most gardening advice never makes explicit. It treats scape removal as a maintenance task, a chore, something to do and move on from. But understanding what it triggers changes how you think about the whole late season. You are not just tidying the plant, you are redirecting it. You are telling it, in the only language it understands, that the window for flowering is closed and it is time to finish the job underground. Here is the thing I want you to take away from this. Most garlic growers think of the scape as a problem to deal with. Something the plant throws up that needs removing before it does damage. That framing is not wrong, but it is incomplete. The same stem that competes with your bulb also feeds you in June, protects the rest of your garden through early summer, and marks the beginning of the final development phase for every bulb in your bed. You were already growing it. You were already cutting it. The only thing that changes is what you do with it in the 60 seconds after it comes off the plant. Go check your garlic bed today. If the scapes are already curling, pick one and bend it gently between your fingers. If it snaps cleanly, it is ready to cut, and everything in this video is available to you right now. If it is still flexible and has not completed its curl, give it a few more days. The window is not huge, but you have not missed it yet. Write in the comments what you have been doing with your scapes until now. whether you were throwing them away every year or already using them in the kitchen. I read every comment, and I want to know where most people are starting from on this. And if you want to know exactly how to read the signals your garlic plant sends in the final weeks before harvest, and why pulling too early costs you more than most people expect, subscribe. That video is already on its way.